Hey, what's up? Welcome to Project Freelance. My name is Kay Anagonio, and I am your host here on this podcast about freelancing. If you are a photographer, a musician, a graphic designer, if you make window panes for commission, I don't know what you do, but if you are a freelancer, this is the podcast for you. On this podcast, I have guests on almost every week, and we talk about how to take your passion and turn it into your life, your job. So this week on the podcast, I'm speaking with an artist and illustrator named Arianne. Arianne draws, illustrates, does cartoon work, has worked with bands, companies, and is currently working on a book. And I wanted to talk to Arianne about how they got started, what they studied in school, have they ever been screwed over by people. So those are some of the things we talk about in this episode. I can't wait for you guys to hear it. But first, I gotta tell you, I have a book out, a photography book. It's called No Tracers, an Urban Explorer's Diary. If you don't have a copy yet and you like coffee table books, if you like photography, if you like urban exploration, abandoned places, if you like adventures, you should definitely check out this book. You will love the heck out of it. I cannot believe that I actually have a book out. I am self-publishing this thing, so thank you to those of you who have bought a copy. It really, truly means a lot to me. I cannot wait for you to get your hands on it. I have shipped this thing from California to New Zealand to Norway to Sweden. I can't believe that I actually have people that are in these places that are interested in this book. So thank you guys. Thank you so much for being a part of this journey and for supporting what I do. If you guys want a copy, go to justtheletterk.com/notracers. And if you would like to further support the podcast, if you like this episode, at the end of it, do me a favor and leave a rating and some feedback for other potential listeners to find and check this podcast out. All right, let's jump into this podcast. Arianne, please tell the people about yourself, what it is that you do, and why you do it.
All right, cool. So I am Arianne, otherwise known as Arimatronic, and I am an illustrator, a portrait artist, cartoonist. I really draw whatever I want, and I'm self-taught. So I really just sell my art, and that is that.
So how did you get into drawing in the first place? Have you always been drawing, like, and creative in that way? I mean, like, for me, when I was in high school, I used to draw a lot, but it never translated into anything that is actually, like, worthy of being sold.
I feel like I have a different history in art when it comes to different artists, because for me, I've always kind of like doodling in class if I had extra time whenever I was done with something, but I never was really that passionate about art until probably high school. And then I realized, like, okay, I'm better at this than when I was in kindergarten. And when I started drawing every day, I realized, wow, I actually can improve by drawing and practicing. So although it wasn't something that's followed me my whole life, I became very passionate about it probably my sophomore year of high school. But before that, my aunt was an incredible artist, so I kind of picked up from her, if I say I took from anyone.
That's awesome. Yeah, the older I've gotten, the more I've noticed how much alike I am to my other family members that I even, like, didn't grow up with. Like, for example, my aunt does the same kind of stuff that I do. She does a lot of, like, freelance editing and, like, all kinds of video work, all kinds of stuff. So it's like, it's weird how we end up just like our family.
Oh yeah, exactly.
So in school, did you take any art classes, or were you always just self-taught, and did you always just, like, doodle and do your own thing?
I took the generic 1 year of art class to get an elective credit, and I cannot say I really took much away from that. The most I took away was my one friend who helps me grow as an artist that I met in that class, because a high school art class, it's you draw based on whatever your teacher tells you, and she gives you a grade, and there's no constructive criticism. It's just you get graded. So I would not say I've taken any art classes, not any, like, college classes, but the generic high school art class that has not really been in any field of art that I've been pursuing.
Wow. So basically completely self-taught. Where did you develop your style? How did you come up with, like, your techniques, and, like, how'd you learn all the, the actual drawing techniques?
So what I've learned the very hard way is every artist everywhere will tell you you cannot draw a cartoony style without learning realism. And I always hated that. I was like, that's not true. I can learn stylistic, I can do my own thing without learning realism. And I was very wrong. So I had to go back and I learned anatomy, and I'm still practicing anatomy and that kind of stuff, but I went back and I worked on realism, and I thought I would hate it, but I actually became really passionate about that. That's what a lot of my recent artwork has been. And after just doing maybe like 2 or 3 realistic drawings, I could see the improvement in my own art. So once I started drawing realistically, just how I would draw someone stylistically or in my cartoon style, you can definitely see it's much more, I guess you could say, anatomically correct, if that is the proper way to say that. But just the way that, I don't know a better way to say it than how my hand works when I'm drawing is kind of how I develop my style. It just kind of falls back into place. You know, I always end up drawing the nose first, then it goes to the eyebrows. And I guess that's kind of how the style develops. But everyone does develop their style in a different way. But that's just how I came up with mine.
Wow, no, that's interesting how you actually like physically start off your pieces. So you always start with like the nose and then the eyebrows first and then go from there?
Yeah, when I do the realistic ones, you know, whatever kind of pops in the face, I guess you could say, because you know, there's the different dimensions. So I would say probably I would start with the nose there too, but it's always easier for me to start with the nose in a cartoon piece too, because you know, that's kind of the center of the face. And for some people, they can start right off with just drawing the outline of the face. They could start with the gesture drawing, but for me, whatever reason, it's always just the nose.
That's awesome. It's so interesting just to hear how other artists like create their compositions from scratch. What kind of materials do you use for your drawing? Do you do paper? Do you have a digital illustrator? What is your process there?
So most of my work, when I get paid to do artwork, when I get paid to do merchandise designs, I do it digitally, and that I do on the iPad Pro with Apple Pencil. It, I did actually start with just my computer, Paint Tool Sci, which is my preferred painting program, and some tablet I got off Depop, like thrifted. Maybe it was $30, and that got me through so much. That built my essentials for drawing digitally totally, and all it did was cost me maybe $35. I don't remember how much Paint Tool Sci was, but yeah, so I mean, I did take the jump and paid a lot for the iPad, but you really don't have to do that to get into digital art. That's just so I can take this everywhere I want and, you know, just draw on my break at work. But when it comes to my traditional work, I prefer to use colored pencils on tone tan paper. That's kind of my favorite just because you can see how the work builds up, but I also do like using acrylic paint on canvas panels.
Oh, that's cool. I like that you have a bunch of different styles and you use a bunch of different mediums to create your art instead of just having like one specific thing. Do you think that makes you a more well-rounded artist? Do you think it makes you have the ability to do like a bunch of different types of things?
I do, and I really used to hate it too because, you know, it doesn't look good on an Instagram feed, which isn't appealing to that many people if you don't have a very good looking social media layout, but it makes me better as an artist. So I do have to say I'm a fan of it.
So talk about how you started getting paid work from your drawings. When did it go from just doing it as a hobby to getting paid for it?
So geez, that's probably like 4 years ago or something. Somebody saw one of my drawings and was like, wow, I paid someone to do something like that for me. And in my head, I was like, I would not sell my art. I did not think I was worthy of it. And it was actually not that person I sold it to. It just gave me the idea, planted the seed. So I posted commission prices, and I was just doing really tiny digital outlines at that time. So I think it was like $10 or something. I would give someone a little tiny outlined drawing of themselves digitally, and one person sold it. And it was like the best day of my life. I don't even remember what I did with the $10, but that was my first commission. And then when it came to designing from there, I was just doing here and there jobs, doing posters for people. And as my artwork improved, that's when I got braver to be like, hey, do you need someone to design merch for you? And that's how I started doing bigger projects. And then I think probably my biggest project to date so far was I did a promotional poster for the Netflix show Disenchantment. And that's from the creator of Futurama, which is my favorite show of all time, but there's no chance I can work on that since that is long gone, unfortunately. But I got that by just drawing fan art, and they saw the fan art and were like, "Hey, we would love you to design this." So just like being a presence has helped me so much, and I am so grateful for that. That was probably like one of the best notifications I could ever get.
Wow. No, tell me more about that. Tell me what that experience was like. What did they say? How did they get in touch with you? And like, what did you do for them? I mean, I know you made like the art for the show, but like, what did you, or like poster art, but like, what did you make specifically?
Oh, I was so caught off guard. I was in my grandma's living room in Cleveland. No Wi-Fi at all, so I was completely on data, trying not to use social media, and then I get an Instagram DM from the official show, and they're like, "Hey, just wondering if you'd be interested in working on a fan art project for us with a couple other artists." I think there's 10 artists in total. It was like one per episode. But when I looked into it, it was only a couple of fan artists, and the rest were animators on brother and sister shows. So I thought that was really cool to be working alongside those kind of people. But yeah, I got that DM and immediately I was like, yeah, of course, just tell me what I need to do. And they informed me that it was a paid commission and I was set to work on it. The show is coming out in, I believe, September or something around that year. And what they wanted me to do was create a promotional piece for the show and kind of have it laid out as it was a piece of a book. And all of our artworks were going to be pages in a digital kind of book that were available on their Instagram page, and they were going to have them on their social medias to help get people into the show. And so that's what I did. So I just designed a piece with the three main characters. They didn't want to spoil anything from the show for anyone, so they gave us about 1 to 2 sentences each, and we just worked along that, and they gave us constructive criticism whether or not our piece fit the episode or not, because we really didn't know what to expect. We've never seen the show, and we were really just guessing. So it was a lot of fun. I still have friends that I made from that, and yeah.
That's so cool. I love that they reached out to you guys and like wanted to have, other fans help create that and do something together creatively and collaboratively. How did you come up with your username? How did you come up with Arimatronic?
See, that is not that cool of a story. I always loved people who had just had the one word kind of cool usernames. I didn't want to have an underscore in my username for whatever reason. I came up with my username before I was an artist. But because originally I did want a space in my digital name. But then I was like, what could I possibly use as a screen name or whatever? And then I realized when I was 13, maybe I was 12, whatever, that game Five Nights at Freddy's was a thing. And it's all about animatronics. So I took out the N and I put in an R because then that's my name, or Ari, or similar to the such. And I had that as my username just like on my personal account. And I was like, you know what? That's one word. It's going to get mispronounced a lot, but it works. And that's it. That's really it.
I love it. No, I think it's great. And how old are you? Five Nights at Freddy's came out. I'm trying to remember when it came out and how old I was. So I'm trying to figure out how old you were if you were 12 when it came out.
I'm 17. So I'm not sure when it came out.
So you're still, okay. You're
I'm
still in your teens. Got you.
Yeah.
No, that's great. That's even better. I'm glad we're talking because you're making money off of this as a teenager, and I haven't had that perspective on this podcast. So, I mean, that's super fucking fascinating to me.
Thank you. So
what platform do you use to sell your art on? Are you on Etsy? Are you on what are the different platforms that you're on?
So as of right now, I really just sell through PayPal, through Zelle, and if someone I'm working with doesn't have any of that, I set up a private Depop listing for them because everything really takes quite a big chunk out of the sale. So I'm not a big fan of doing that yet. I've been working on setting up my website, but that's been a lot of hassle right now. So what I do is I talk to people individually. And also what happens, like when it's a bigger company I'm working for, or it's a larger band or something like that, then they just send me an invoice, or I'll send them an invoice based on what the transaction is. But yeah, I don't really have a sale right now, but my website, arimatronic.com, is just kind of where you can contact me and set up anything that you're really looking for. And then I work on the payment method based on whoever I'm working with.
Sweet. So as far as like influences go, do you have anybody that you look up to currently in the art world?
Oh, geez. I couldn't even say one or two people. It's just so many people I follow. Probably, I just see someone on Instagram and I'm just such a big fan of their work and I want to take influence without copying their style. So, I mean, I gotta say, quite a few people. There's Convict Raffi on Instagram. I'm trying to think of all these different people. um, I mean, definitely my aunt, though. I can say that for sure. She was always drawing around me, and she would always do the realistic eye thing. And I feel like that's an essential piece for any artist growing up is just drawing that one eye, and not the rest of the face, but learning how to draw one realistic eye on your like math homework or something. So she definitely influenced me. Um, Really, just anyone I've been following on Instagram is I take influence from them. And I mean, a big influence is really anyone that I draw that appreciates my artwork and who shares my artwork. And, anyone that I have put in my time of day to illustrate for, just usually when I'm talking fan art, and they share it and appreciate what I've done for them, then that keeps me going.
Yeah, for sure. What are some of the other projects that you've worked on for, say, bigger companies? Or I saw some, you did Dollskin merch. I'm a huge fan of Dollskin. I think they're fantastic people, and I've been following them for quite a while. And the first time I saw them play live, I was blown away. So tell me some of the other projects you've worked on.
Yeah, I did work for them briefly. Not too briefly, probably like around a year. I work for my other friend's band, Not Confined. That's probably some of my favorite merch that I have done. They're incredible too. Um, what I like to do is I like to work at conventions selling my own artwork. So that's not a bigger company, something like that. But that is something that I'm trying to establish up. Oh, let's see. It's just a matter of how many people, because there's a lot in the works right now too. So I'm trying to make sure I'm not about to say anything because I'm still waiting for some stuff to get published. But I do have some stuff in the works. I'm currently illustrating for a book right now, so that will be something. But yeah, I mean, definitely I've worked for Dollskin before. I worked for Not Confined. I sell my own merch. Cleaver Clothing, who is run
Okay.
by Spencer of Ice Nine
Yeah,
Kills. I've done
Spencer.
a couple. Yeah, I've done a couple of designs for them back in the day before. Woo, they're so big right now, and that's awesome. And I still support them. But back a couple of years ago, I did a poster design for them, kind of styled like the '90s Nickelodeon cartoon thing. We did a cleaver design, and it was Spencer surrounded by all different kinds of big names in horror. And then we also did these little pins of Spencer that were sold. And that was a lot of fun. I've done a little icon for Tay Patterson, who's a YouTuber, a big friend of mine, a big supporter of mine too. Really appreciative of her. I've done different logos just really wherever anyone's looking for work. Like I've done logos for crested gecko breeders because I'm big with reptiles. So really anything at all. But yeah, usually just here and there artworks for different bands looking for artwork to be done.
How did you get into the convention game? I mean, that's a super specific niche market, going to conventions and selling your work there. Not a lot of people even know that you can do that. How did you get into that? How did you start? And does that come with any complications in getting into these events?
So the only complications due to my age was getting the hotels because, yeah, I can't really do that. And most of the booking agents, it's like 19 plus or whatever. So luckily I do have friends that, I'll stay with. My friend Trinity, she helps me out at all my conventions. She helps me out really selling anywhere I do, whether it's just helping me out on social media or whether or not she's helping me out in person. She's helped me book my hotel rooms, but conventions, I've actually never been to a convention until Phoenix Fan Fusion, the first year I was selling, which was this year. And I just decided, I was like, I want to do this. So I watched a couple of people's YouTube videos and I was like, this looks like a lot of fun. So I applied for a booth and I think a artist alley table was maybe, I don't know, 325 or something. I did not have that kind of money, but that wasn't stopping me. So I took 325 out of my savings once I got accepted, and I decided that it would be a business investment, and it totally was because the people that I met and the connections that I met through that experience, totally, that just paid off in itself. And I actually upgraded my table. So I went from an artist alley table to a dealer's table. So that's on a second floor. So I was on the floor with the guest appearances and with the celebrities. So there was a little bit of more traffic there, which was really cool. And I just had a great time doing that because I, of course, bought my booth for next year. I've been applying to different conventions. I'm trying to look more into horror conventions as well so I can sell my more niche horror work because, that doesn't sell too well at conventions. Because at this one, I think I had a skateboard with Marge Simpson's decapitated head. And I actually watched parents cover their kids' eyes. So I gotta have a little more parent kid friendly thing for the next convention, but I do want to work more with like gore and horror kind of conventions next.
Yeah, for sure. You should look into like some like October festival like conventions that are going on. That kind of stuff would sell perfectly there, I think. Do you have anything you want to like talk about specifically?
If there's ever anything that you're looking to doing in art, if there's anything you hate drawing, then you need to start drawing it, because that's how I found out that I love doing realism. I hated it. It was my least favorite thing of all time, and now it's probably my favorite. That's happened with everything I've done. So that's just something a little bit interesting there.
Yeah, for sure. What do you hope for the next 5 years of your drawing, your design career? Like, where do you hope to go? What type of things do you hope to work on? Do you have any like ambitions? Like you said you're working on a book right now. Do you have other things that you want to do?
Yeah, I do. Within the next 5 years, within the next couple months, I hope to start a YouTube channel and kind of share my experience that way, so I can show different art processes, just share, just kind of like fun stories, anything, maybe vlogs of the conventions. I definitely want to work on more conventions for sure. Those are beyond fun. And, it's like, it's work, but it doesn't feel like work. So I love doing conventions. I want to start traveling for conventions, going around the country as opposed to just staying local. And just my big dream time, all-time goal is I definitely want to work for Fall Out Boy some way. That is just my probably unrealistic, but one goal that I have to have. So speaking it into existence.
Yeah, you have to. Fall Out Boy, if any of you guys are, I mean, me and Pete Wentz have the same birthday, so I mean, we're basically like twins, right? So maybe somehow he'll listen to this podcast and hear this and then hire you.
I love it.
This is how my brain works in the morning.
Me too.
Okay, so I know that you're younger and hopefully you haven't experienced this yet, but have you ever been like screwed over or not paid for a job or anything like that?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. Not going to name drop.
No, I don't like that you say definitely. That's a bad thing.
Oh, no. It happens quite often. Like just last week, I had this commission and I worked super hard and I always take payment up front. But it's always when I never do that I always get screwed over. Like the one time I'll be like, oh yeah, if you get paid on Friday, we can wait till Friday. So I worked on like so many different designs, and it was one of those really annoying commissions where they're like, oh yeah, it's like totally up to the artist. I don't have anything really in mind. So then you draw this thing and they change it in every aspect. Yeah, so I spent all this time on it and I didn't send them the finished product, luckily. And they just stopped replying to my DMs, like didn't say, hey, I'm not interested anymore. Hey, sorry, I don't have the money for it. But they just totally ghosted me. Yeah, there's been some bands I worked for where I never saw the complete payment, or when I would work on so many really cool designs and they'd all just get scrapped last minute for just really plain text designs that were not my style whatsoever. And, that kind of stuff happens, though. You can't be what I'm doing and never expect that to happen, because at the end of the day, it is work and it is the band or the client's last call. So if they really just change their mind, it is up to them. But it does suck in the aspect that I spent my time on it and it's just kind of going in the trash can.
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of clients don't know what they want until they see something and then they realize it's not that.
Exactly.
which is really frustrating because like you said, like you spend so much time working on something and then it turns out they just change their mind or want to go with a different artist maybe or whatever. And yeah, I totally feel your frustration. It's the same in my world, you know. I think it's the same in all aspects of freelancing. It's just something that we have to deal with because humans change their minds. But I think it's good to share those kind of stories just to show people that it does happen frequently and it happens to everybody.
Oh yeah, I mean, you can't even, as much as it sucks for me, you can't entirely blame the artist too, or the artist in the other sense, talking about the band, I guess I should say. You can't really blame the client, I guess, because it is their project and they envision it some way in their head. And although if they didn't communicate that or something changed, I do have to respect that I am working for them. So that, that's something that I have to keep in mind. But yeah, it would be great if people knew exactly what they wanted, but that's the perfect world. So things like that do happen. I guess like just being completely ghosted was the most annoying thing because, I don't even get an explanation in that sense.
For sure. Also, I wanted to just recommend somebody to you. Follow him on like Instagram or Twitter. His handle is Dead Eyes Art. I'll send it to you on Skype after this. But he does a lot of digital illustration and he just started a YouTube channel. So if you are looking for like some inspiration, I would highly recommend his channel for sure.
Oh yeah, I'll follow him right now.
What is something you know now that you wish you knew when you started drawing? Aside from realism.
So kind of what we just talked about is I actually wrote a whole little note to self booklet on this just because there's things I need to remind myself is I need to remember that these are my clients and not always my friends. So I do have to remember if they don't like a design, to not take it personally. They're not giving me constructive criticism. They are giving me what they want for their design. So I have to remember that it's nothing personal. I got to reach out more than once because a lot of people will often not say anything because they're unsure. So it's kind of like in a sense where you'll show them the work in progress of a commission and they won't say anything. They'll just kind of like the picture that you send them, maybe like in the Instagram DMs, and I'll be like, all right, cool. And I'll just assume that means they like it. But that's why I have to ask more questions now, make sure it's exactly how they like it so I don't have to change it last minute. That is something I wish I thought of before. And something else that I wish I started doing for sure when I was starting art is if I'm not 100% on a piece and I'm just kind of working on it, trying to fix what I don't like, but it's already too far gone, I just have to scrap it, not waste my time, because quite frankly, it's not worth it. I've spent so much time just on pieces that were going nowhere, and I knew they were going nowhere, and I knew that I would not be proud to send those to the client. So as much as I want to turn some pieces around, I just have to accept that some are not going to come to fruition.
So as a younger person that's in art and you're making money off of this, like, do you realize that you are making money off of doing something you love already? Like, that's insane.
I do. And I would love for it to be a full-time career someday. I really want to be a tattoo artist. That's what I want to do. Yeah, I've always wanted tattoos since I was a little kid. And then I realized, hey, that's a job that someone does. So I'd like to do that. And I've been following so many tattoo artists and just seeing how much they love their jobs. And it's like, I cannot wait to do that one day. And my mom knows I was really into tattoos my whole life. So she took me to get my first one when I was 16, which I feel like a lot of parents are not down with. But it was her friend from third grade, Shawnette Abra, I don't know how to pronounce it. There's an X in it, but Abra's Tattoo in Cleveland, I believe. And she took me to him, and I got my first tattoo when I was 16. And yeah, I mean, I definitely knew that was something that I wanted to do.
Yeah, I have a similar story. My mom took me to get my first one when I was 16, and then it kind of just exploded from there. And now I've got a lot of them. And now my parents have them, and my brothers want them. And it's like insane to see my family just turn into this tattooed family, all thanks to my little problem with needing more tattoos.
Your influence.
My influence, for sure. I think it's great that you're starting so early and you're already, working on like the business side of everything and you're taking care of, that portion of it and you're already learning it. It's great that you're so young and you're already doing this. And I think that that's only going to set you up to be more successful in the future. And I know that it's hard to see like your future self, but I think that you're definitely on the right path to doing what you're wanting to do. And so I just want to say like, definitely stick on that path and keep doing your thing and keep making money and kicking ass. Cause I mean, I love your stuff. I think it looks super cool. That's why I wanted to have you on this podcast. And I definitely just wanted to pick your brain a little bit more about what it is that you love. And so yeah, I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate all the kind words and everything, all the encouragement. That's what, like I was talking about earlier, that's what helps me keep on going.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're doing your thing and you're doing it very well. So, I mean, if you ever doubt yourself, don't, because you're great. You're fantastically talented. Plug your social media, and if people want to commission you, tell them about your like price range, or if you do everything at a different price for customization.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I do. So my Instagram, Twitter, really you can find me just Arimatronic on everything. ARIMATRONIC. So that's also my website too, is just arimatronic.com. If you want to commission me or hire me for a project, then I do kind of work by budget per customer because, I wouldn't charge the same for a very generic text design as I would a huge comic illustrated piece. So I do recommend that you send me your budget range and then I can kind of work around what I can do for that price. But yeah, I am open right now. So
you actually did the artwork for this episode, and tell me about that piece and what you wanted to create and where it went.
I did. I wanted to kind of create a piece. So this is on a Skype call. Any other podcasts I watch are typically, at that standard round table. So I kind of wanted to recreate that in a piece using my style. So just kind of wanted to bring that to life, connect the dots throughout the podcast into an art piece.
Very cool. Well, hey, I appreciate you doing that, and I hope people like that. And if they do, they can definitely go check out your Instagram, your website, commission you for work. And I just want to say thank you again and keep doing your thing.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on again. I really appreciate it.
All right, guys, so that was an episode with Arimatronic. Thank you so much for coming on and talking to the world about your talents. And I can't stress enough that I think what you're doing is great. And the fact that you're starting so young and so early and you're doing so well already and achieving so much already, your career is going to be amazing. You're going to have a great, very lengthy, long, full career. So thank you for coming on this podcast. If you guys liked this episode, please give it 5 stars. Give the podcast 5 stars. And if you want to take a couple extra minutes, leave some feedback so other people that are looking for podcasts like this read your feedback and say, hey, I should probably check this podcast out. Thank you guys so much. And also, if you were unaware or if you just forgot, I have a photography book out right now called No Tracers, an Urban Explorer's Diary. And that book is full of high-res images and stories from urban explorations that I've gone on into abandoned places around the world. So if you guys are into that kind of stuff, if you need a new coffee table book, or if you want to give a gift to somebody this holiday season, go to justletterk.com/no tracers. Pick up your copy now. Also, this holiday season, it's August. Pick it up whenever you want. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Project Freelance. I will talk to you guys next week. Stay strong, keep enduring, go out and go create something.